Hello and welcome to another Legends of Runeterra video here on the channel. Today we're going to be doing a guide on unit positioning, or how you should be placing your champions and followers in specific ways during combat in order to either generate certain effects or take away an effect that an opponent has. Now there is a little keyword in the game that some of you might have seen on a few units called support, which creates an effect on the unit that's directly to the right of that support unit if that support unit is attacking. But positioning goes much deeper than just the support keyword. So let's jump right into it. First off, why does positioning matter? Well, just like we talked about in the beginner's guide, when multiple spells are played, their effects happen in order from left to right. Not only do spells happen from left to right, but attacking and blocking also happens from left to right. Because of this, you can use the keywords and skills that your units have in more strategic ways in order to get extra value out of them that you normally wouldn't be able to otherwise. This is especially true when it comes to some champions, and in fact, most of the examples I'll be showing today will involve some of those champions. So let's take a look at them. Let's start off by talking about Darius, since he's probably one of the simplest examples in the game. Just to recap, Darius levels up anytime he sees that the enemy nexus is at 10 health or less, so he does have to be in play for that to happen. Since each unit during combat deals their damage starting with the unit furthest to the left, then moving towards the right, this means that if any of those units get the nexus down to 10 health or less, then Darius will level up before he does his damage if he's on the right hand side. And his level 2 has 10 power with Overwhelm, as opposed to 6 power, meaning Darius will do an extra 4 damage in that scenario. So for this reason, you always want to place him on the far right side to give him the best chance to level up before he deals his damage. There is another champion from the Noxus region that works in a similar way, and that's Vladimir. The clip I'm showing here isn't going to be the best example, but it should still get the point across. If you're trying to level Vladimir up, he should also be placed to the far right, because if enough units to the left of him survive any damage they take, he has a chance to level up before he deals his damage as well. Granted, the positioning of Vladimir isn't nearly as big a deal as Darius is for 2 reasons. 1, he doesn't have Overwhelm, and 2, if you have a full board of 6 units or are close to a full board, he is likely going to level up from his own Crimson Pact skill anyway, if any of your other allies survive damage earlier. Crimson Pact will deal 1 damage to all of your other attacking allies, and deals 1 damage to the enemy nexus for each other attacking ally you have. But Vladimir's positioning can come into play if, let's say, you only have 3 other units on the board and you've only had 2 units survive damage so far. If you place Vladimir on the far right in that scenario, then if any one of your other units survive both the damage they take from their blocker and the Crimson Pact damage, then Vladimir will level up. Just keep in mind that your units also need to survive Crimson Pact for it to count towards his level up requirement. Next, we need to go into how Lifesteal works in certain situations during combat. One little trick to keep in mind is that while Lifesteal is a great keyword to keep you alive, Lifesteal does not put your nexus back above 0 health once your nexus reaches 0 while in combat. This has some interesting applications when you start combining that fact with challenger units. If you have a challenger unit and your other units can deal enough damage to win the game on the next attack, make sure to put your challenger units on the far right side when attacking before choosing which of your opponent's units will block them. That way, your opponent will be forced to deal with the units on your left using other cards, whether that's through removal spells or other units they have on the board. This is especially important if one of their units has lifesteal or you think your opponent has the ability to give one of their units lifesteal. Because again, once a nexus reaches 0 health, the game ends, even if your opponent's units on the right hand side gain lifesteal to bring the nexus back up to above 0 health. One other interesting scenario when it comes to positioning and lifesteal is if your opponent's nexus is at 20 health or close to 20 health, and they have a lifesteal unit out. Normally, your opponent would choose to block your attacker on the right with their lifesteal unit, meaning they would get some health back, reducing the damage that the units on your left did. If you have a challenger unit that kills the lifesteal unit, however, when you enter combat, you can put the challenger unit on the left and force their lifesteal unit to block your challenger unit. This way, your opponent doesn't gain the full amount of health from the lifesteal. In the case of 20 health, they won't gain any, since your Nexus can't go above 20 health no matter what. Your units on the right will then deal damage after the lifesteal unit on the left dies, so that way their damage sticks. There's a pitfall I want to mention when it comes to positioning your units, particularly when it comes to champions that create additional units whenever they attack. In this case, we're talking about Elise and Hecarim when they're each at level 1. Elise creates a 1/1 spiderling whenever she attacks, and Hecarim creates 2 ephemeral units that are each 2/2s whenever he attacks. So, if you have 2 or more units that each make a token anytime they're attacking, the leftmost unit will make their tokens first, before the ones to the right do. So if Hecarim makes his 2 tokens and the board is full, Elise won't make her spider if she's to the right of Hecarim. Speaking of Hecarim, if he's at level 2 or will level up on your attack, he should be placed to the right of any other ephemeral units you already have that are also attacking, especially if there's any possibility that Hecarim might die to the unit blocking him. The reason being is that once Hecarim dies, his level 2 ability immediately ends, meaning your ephemeral units will lose the extra power buff before they deal their damage if Hecarim dies first. You place them to the right of any ephemeral units that are already in play, so you can take advantage of the extra 2 power they have before he dies, since you'll lose it once he does. Finally, let's touch on Lucian. And fair warning, there's going to be more nuance here than probably any other champion I've talked about in this video. Lucian is an interesting champion when it comes to where he should be placed when attacking. Lucian levels up after either seeing 4 other allies die or seeing Senna die, whichever happens first. When Lucian levels up, he gains double attack, which allows him to strike twice, and the first strike will always be a quick attack strike. Because of this, the golden rule when attacking with Lucian is that he should be placed as far to the right as possible, especially if you think there's a chance the units to the left of him will die. The reason being is that, like Darius, you want to give Lucian the best chance possible to level up before he deals his damage. Things get more interesting though when it comes to Senna being in play with Lucian. I personally like to place Lucian as far to the right of Senna as possible when they're both attacking, but you don't actually have to do this. As long as Senna is somewhere to the left, that's fine. It's only ideal if you really think Senna has a good chance to be the first unit to die to anything that's blocking her. But the reasoning behind my method is that I figure either he will level up off of Senna dying in combat or the 4 other units I have in play that end up dying in combat. Things flip once Lucian is already at level 2 though. Senna gains 1 power and 1 health and double attack permanently if she sees Lucian die. This situation isn't going to come up often because you usually need to keep Lucian alive for his rally ability, making him far more important to protect. But if you think it's possible that Lucian could die in combat, you want to place Senna to the right of Lucian if he's already at level 2, while the rest of your units are usually, but not always, placed to the left of both of them. Since he's already leveled up, you no longer need to make sure Senna dies first. Again, they don't have to be as far apart as possible, though that is something I'll sometimes do depending on the situation. Usually if I'm threatening lethal or I can get ahead of my opponent on the board while wiping their units out. I also want to stress again that this is highly dependent on what the board looks like, especially when it comes to what units your opponent has in play and how you think they'll use their units to block. Not only in the case of Lucian, but of all the examples we've shown today. That covers some of the most common scenarios as far as unit positioning goes. If you've just started playing Legends of Runeterra, I hope these tips and tricks helped you and that you'll win more games because of it. As always, if you liked the video, feel free to give it a like below. If you don't want to miss out on any future content, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you're guaranteed to never miss a video when it comes out. I also stream Legends of Runeterra live on Twitch, so feel free to follow me there as well. You'll find a link to the Twitch channel and all of my social handles in the video description below. Thanks for taking time out of your day to watch this, and I'll see you all next time. Take care.